good morning or afternoon, depending on when you are watching this recording, still presented virtually, although pre-recorded. Given the slight delays in the program, this clashes with a scheduled class, unfortunately. So hopefully you can still enjoy this presentation. This paper was titled South African Consumers' Wearable Activity Tracking Preferences and Perceptions, a Post-COVID Perspective. And as you can see on screen, these are the devices, most of them included, is what the scope of the study was all about. I'm the main author of this paper, and my co-author is Prof. Rian Miller. Now, this wearable fitness technology market, including the various wearable trackers that you saw in the cover page, has grown rapidly since it was introduced in 2009. Various factors, of course, contributed to this, and most notably, the increase in consumers' health consciousness. So not only, I should say, have diets changed, but also the need for technology that can monitor our health. And of course, the advance in technology has led to the growth of this segment. Now, despite the economic impact of the COVID period, there was an understandable growth in demand of health-related progress, or products rather. Initially, Stats SA predicted a decline in these products, but consumers showed that there was a need for these products, and this included devices that can keep consumers updated with their health statistics. It might be said that the health scare resulting from the pandemic may have further contributed to what device sales, as larger numbers of consumers started relying on wearable devices, which is convenient and on your body the entire time, to obtain personal health information. And this can include body temperature, heart rate, and blood oxygen levels. Because remember, when you visited the doctor for an appointment, the first thing they did was to put that thing on your finger to monitor your saturation levels, so your blood oxygen saturation levels. Now, as a result, with a focus on blood pressure, heart rate, and blood oxygen, and sleep patterns as metrics to monitor during the pandemic, higher tier wearable activity trackers were in demand. It's also why I bought my new Garmin, which could provide all of these stats for me. Although the caveat to these devices is the awareness, because not a lot of people, especially in South Africa and developing nations, aren't aware of these devices. Accessibility, therefore, is a challenge, but also the premium you have to pay to receive these benefits. This significantly impacted the successful diffusion of and continuity of what devices in South Africa specifically. And this, of course, as we know, is a country plagued with economic challenges, and especially due to the COVID pandemic, and consumers with decreased disposable income, because these are luxury products, and then higher living costs, where they really need to turn a penny and focus on things they need to purchase instead of desires. Of course, the challenge is accepted, no pun intended, because these devices have challenges, but to overcome them, this study not only closes the gap in the literature pertaining to the what research, because this is in depth scarcity in South Africa, but also globally, because it's a new concept. Well, not that new, but developing, but also with a specific emphasis on investigating device feature preferences and brand perceptions. But it also assists these manufacturers and resellers with crucial information they can use as input to prosper in the South African consumer market. To achieve this, data from a pre-pandemic research study in South Africa was compared. Having a post-COVID consumer perspective will provide what brands with a unique insight into the consumer's preferences and perceptions. Now, what are these devices? Just an overview and definition of these. So this study defined it as any type of device that is attachable to the human body, including clothing items, capable of measuring the user's movement and fitness-related metrics, while at the same time providing real-time feedback, like in a web service or on the watch or in the app, by means of a smart device. So this can include a smartphone, desktop application, or web service, but also the device itself. Okay, so why bother? If this wasn't clear yet, an estimated $134 million was generated globally in 2021, and $4.82 billion expected for this year. Of course, then we can conclude that this is a big deal and continuity is essential. Globally, it's a female-dominated market, and in South Africa, it is a male-dominated market, opening the discussion of future research in terms of the gender disparity. China and US, they are leading the global markets, but South Africa was actually identified as the next big market for these devices. And it's also dominated rather by Gen X and Gen Y. So in 2022, these individuals were aged 18 or probably 17 to 56, but we only focused on the adult segment. I'm going to present this a bit differently. So I'm going to introduce the concept, clarify the concept, but also discuss the results. But first, let's check the methodology. Methodology and the rest is available in the paper, but briefly, this followed a descriptive design and a cross-sectional approach. This 2022 study followed a computer-administered survey because at the time of collection, face-to-face collection was still a bit of an issue. And this was done through a widely used research company in South Africa. The 2017, since we had access to face-to-face, it followed rather a self-administered in-person survey. Then the gender distribution was set for the 2022 study so that we can have a clear difference there. The target population was adult consumers 18 to 56 residing in South Africa. Sample size for this study was 500 and we achieved 487 valid cases, but this is the benefit of using online surveys. The 2017 study had 600 and 480 valid cases. So the valid cases are really close as a comparison. Demographics, background info, and scaled responses, that is what we collected, and we use a 6-point Likert scale. I also used SPS S27, and this included frequencies, descriptives, reliability, and one sample t-test for the perception section. Now, just a quick illustration, and I know I can talk about this probably for 10 years, but let me illustrate for those who are not familiar with what you can get. Now, just note I am Garmin biased because that is the brand I prefer. This was, I think, 20 March was in my app. So talking about a smart device where the device syncs the information captured by the watch. This was a daily layout of that day. More information here, but remember, this is an advanced device where basic devices cover steps, calories, sleep, and stuff like this. But as you can see, let me just use the cursor. I record in indoor cycling. I have the training status. I have my heart rate giving me the high for the day and also the resting body battery, which I really can confirm links with being sick. When I am sick, I had a cold presenting at another conference last year and I got sick and my body battery never got to 90%, meaning my body was tired and it really showed there. Stress levels, intensity minutes, steps, their calories. Again, that was then sleep gives me all of those types and quality, a sleep score, pulse ox. This is the feature I was looking for during the pandemic. Whether it's accurate or not, that is what we have to determine. That's also future research. Is it accurate or not? Because 95% during the pandemic was considered troublesome, and yet I am healthy at this stage. So that is worrisome. Then respiration, female features, and then my summaries for the last 7 days and yesterday, the day before rather. So heart rate, I can go into stats for a day, 7 days, 4 weeks, a year. I can also do this for steps. I can also do this for my pulse ox acclimatation. Acclimatation is when you train and you have the pulse ox activated. If you are at the coast, if you are inland, it will be different a bit. But I don't activate this anymore because it just drains my battery. I just take incremental measurements. In my sleep, for the average of 1 or 7 days, it gives me my average, my REM, and so forth. But also then my respiration rate, and then also my body battery integrated with stress levels. So being an advanced device, a growth and need for this emanated from the pandemic, but also for other reasons like tracking your sports performance, which was also the reason I got this one. Now, the results for the preferences, so meaning feature preferences, as I just discussed or introduced. Now, keeping the arguments together, I explained or clarified the concept. Now, what are the differences 2017 and 2022, so pre and post-COVID, in terms of these device preferences? We're going to have a look at this chart, and 2017 is indicated in purple and the 2022 results indicated in blue. And interestingly, as a footnote in the paper, the 2017 studies was only based on a student population, whereas the blue 2022 study was the general population. And we can go as far as to say we can generalize the 2017 results, because this was verified in this study, because the 6 main preferred features, they align exactly for 2022. Now, you will note that mentioning the technology or technological advancements, these features were not available in 2017, but still high in demand. And also, for example, VO2 max was either not measured or not available in most devices that time. But here you can see basically steps and distance is probably, it is the most preferred. People just want to see how many steps and how far they travel in a day. And then heart rate and blood pressure. So you will see the address there. This was combined in the previous study and then separated for this one, but still, it is the second highest in demand for 2022. So here we can see that it became all the more important to measure blood pressure and heart rate. Then being waterproof and resistant, because you want it to survive rain or a splash or shower. And then also people are really interested in calculating their daily calories, but this kind of declined in 2022. GPS tracking, also a bit more important in 2017, but still important. And then tracking sleep patterns also kind of declined in 2022, but it's because people emphasize other features they would prefer. And then multi-sport tracking was the biggest dropper. People aren't that interested in monitoring multi-sport tracking, basically just interested in a device that can measure their daily activity. Just read the caveats there. The samples differs, as I mentioned, students versus Gen Pop, but it's the same results, which is excellent to know. And then you should interpret these findings with caution. So what? So now we know it's the same. So it is good to know for device manufacturers that in the 5-year period, people just want these features. So this includes advising them to manufacture and produce products that can track steps and distance, measure heart rate, blood pressure, be waterproof resistant, calculate calories, GPS tracking, and sleep patterns. If they only have a device that can do that, they can really increase their market share. And of course, that will reduce the price and make it more affordable. So they should incorporate these aspects and gain a competitive advantage when they do this. Although just knowing the features people want is not enough. We need to have a look at their preferences as well. And not their preferences, their perception. This was not covered in the 2017 study. This was the focus of post-COVID. Borrowing from Arcus brand equity model, this was kind of the foundation. This post-COVID study wanted to first determine their brand awareness. Are they aware of specific brands that sell these devices, especially after the pandemic? And a larger emphasis, of course, was placed on health and well-being. So these brands started promoting a bit more, focusing on these aspects. Then the brand quality perception. Are these brands producing reputable and reliable products? And are these brands reputable and reliable? Then it aimed to establish whether these devices offer price value for money, because remember, I mentioned these are very expensive or not as affordable for general consumers, given the situation. And then it furthermore wanted to determine, as with any technology adoption, the attitude and intent to purchase these devices. So we wanted, as a baseline, just to establish whether these are significant. And these are the findings. You can see that the highest mean was recorded for purchase intention, which is really great news for these device manufacturers and resellers. And then the second one was attitude. So this is also great news. The highest mean scores I have ever seen for the attitude and intention dimensions. Then we have quality perception. So it's also great that these individuals think, okay, these brands produce reputable and reliable products. And then we have price value for money, which is interesting. Despite the general population struggling with living costs and less disposable income, they do perceive these devices providing enough metrics and information for them to be willing to pay the price. But then also awareness. Awareness was the lowest, but still high enough for us to conclude that they are aware of these brands and these devices. And of course, all of them are significant. Just brief conclusion. In terms of the preferences, there were no statistical or significant differences between the pre and post-COVID findings in terms of preferences, which is good. They just want a device with those features. And that is what the recommendation is for what brands and manufacturers. So just produce these devices with these features, lower the price, and more consumers will purchase them. In terms of perceptions, this fills kind of a large gap in the literature from a post-COVID perspective. So it investigates consumers' brand awareness, attitude, intention, price value for money, and also quality perception. And all of these factors are statistically significant. So while the sample showed a positive attitude and high likelihood of purchasing a watch, brands are tasked with emphasizing the quality of the data produced. So that is also where future research exists in terms of doing the research, proving that these are reliable stats, and set the consumers at ease, especially for first-time buyers. They also need to emphasize device usefulness and convincing consumers that purchasing such a device offers them good value for money. Research on larger samples is also beneficial, especially since we have 60 million consumers in South Africa. We need everyone's, or as many people as possible, and we need their opinions. And then, given the rapid changes in these devices, new features being added, we need to continuously produce research based on this. So perhaps annually or every 3 years. And that is basically the conclusion of this paper. If you have any questions or needs, or have a need to collaborate rather, you are welcome to contact us on screen. My focus area is on these wearable tech and also physical esports. We are going to release a paper soon on this. It is not esports as it's known commercially, like console-based. It is a new form of esports. We need to use your body to participate in sports in a virtual or augmented world. And you can just Google Zwift and get an idea of what this is about. This is also my research focus area. And then Prof. Rian has branding, brand equity, and consumer behavior. So we collaborated with these two aspects. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Thank you so much for sparing time to watch this presentation.